Happy Monday, friends. We are in a new month. It is June now, which is celebrated as LGBTQIA Pride Month in our country and worldwide. And so for those of you who don't know, Pride this month of June marks an anniversary of a very important event in LGBTQ history. So there were riots at Stonewall Inn in New York City in 1969 in June that came about when police were harassing the LGBTQ community who were gathering at that bar and other bars in the area. And there was an uprising against it in favor of LGBTQ rights. And so that is the origin of it, which is, a serious matter. It's not just all of the rainbows and happiness we see around Pride this month now comes from a darker place, like many things in history that are commemorated. So what we do in this month is celebrate all the reasons that we are proud to be who we are, whoever that is. It welcomes everybody to be their most vibrant self and live their life in the way that suits them best. And I am very excited to participate. Our library is doing this really fun activity with kids, but it's also for adults if you'd like. So Mandy has posted a video where you can come in and pick up a piece of flag, all different colors, and you can write on it a reason that you are proud to be who you are. And we're going to use them to decorate the fence outside the library for this month. So there's also an in-person event where it's a week from Saturday, I'm sorry. Is it? No, it's June 12th, Saturday, June 12th. We are doing an event outside where Mandy will have some of the flags out and also the opportunity for people who haven't made one yet to make one for themselves. So if you are interested in that, please join in. I am definitely making one. And I know Mandy has made one and several of the other staff as well. But so I figured this book talk this week, we would talk about a bunch of books by and for LGBTQ people. So I'm going to be kind of all over. There's different fiction, nonfiction things I wanted to discuss, and I thought we'd focus on some really new stuff. So this month's book page, which I will just show you the cover of, features Casey McQuiston, who is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is a kind of a rom-com LGBTQ novel that came out a few years ago to rave reviews. I adored it. And she is finally out with her long-awaited next book. So I want to talk about that one. But then this whole issue has a number of new or returning authors, LGBTQ authors, and LGBTQ books that I wanted to highlight for you. Many of them are in the catalog already. Some of them are just being added because they're brand new, but you should be able to get them very shortly. I am purchasing them for our library, and I know other libraries in the system are buying them as well. So this will just give you kind of an on your radar what to look for if you're interested in picking up a book this month in honor of Pride. We're also going to do an online Pride bookshelf, so a virtual bookshelf. If you haven't checked those out yet, they're pretty cool. They'll have the covers of all the books, and you click on them, and they give you more information about the book, and also a link to request it through our library system. So that will be up. I will have one of those, and we're going to do a display in the library. So I hope that you'll all join us in celebrating Pride, and let's get started. I'm going to put up a book cover, and then we'll talk about it a little, and then I'll put up the next book cover, and at the end, I'll put all the covers again in case you missed them. Again, these are all brand new books, so I have not read them yet, but they're ones that I'm very excited about, and we're going to talk about some of the reviews that are in Book Page, which I know many of you use to help select your next read. So let's get started. Okay, so you saw the cover of One Last Stop, which is the first one I wanted to talk about because it's the one I've been personally waiting for ever since reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. So this book is kind of a love affair with New York City that Casey McQuiston has, and its subway system. She actually says that there is a most romantic subway line, and it's the Q line. So for those of you who are curious, which runs from Midtown to Coney Island, and it's picturesque, she says. So this book she describes it as a public transit crush romance with a time slip twist. So I know that's a lot to wrap your head around, but it is about two women. The protagonist is August, a lost and confused 23-year-old who moves to New York City because she's lonely and cynical and wants to live a lonely and cynical city. And New York City is that, as many of us would attest to. And she gets there and discovers friends and family and love and all these weird broke early 20s New York type of ways. So it is sort of a love letter to New York City, which, you know, she adores, especially the public transit system. And this book is about this romance that takes place between August and a woman that she meets on the train. And so they said that one of the main differences between this book and her first book, Red, White, and Royal Blue, is that in Red, White, and Royal Blue, one of the characters, who is royalty, is not out. This, which is a vital part of the LGBTQ life, is the coming out moment, is usually a very big deal. So this book, she says, is the one that takes place after all of that. So both of these characters are out already and living their lives. And so it's not that story. It's a romance story. And it has gotten amazing reviews. Everybody is super excited about it because her first book was such a huge success, and so well received. Everybody's been like eagerly awaiting this one. So I do think that while her books touch on heavier topics, I find they're light and airy and lovely and funny and contemporary, and I just really enjoy them. I think they make for great beach reads. I have a friend who was reading one and said that the first thing she did was get a bath and a bottle of wine and sit and read this book. So I think that that's the sort of mood. If you're in a summer kind of lighter read mood, this book might be for you. And Casey McQuiston is this young female author who I think has a great voice, and it's a newer kind of arena. And we're going to touch on some other books that are in the same vein, I guess, of the lighter romance, but just with the LGBTQ element present. And that's great because every kind of book should be available with characters that everybody can relate to. And so I am super excited about a number of these, but Casey McQuiston's One Last Stop is the first one on my list. Okay, so let's look at some others. As you saw there, the next book is called The Queer Principles of Kit Webb, and this is set in Georgia-era England, and it is a romance. So it's in this section that they are featuring LGBTQ plus romance, and they've called it, which I love this, they've called it Sweet and Substantial, summer romances that are a perfect blend of swoon-inducing and serious. So I like that because there's some substance to it, but it's also, as I talked about, a little lighter, a little more fun, which is the mood of summer, right? When you're at the beach, you don't want to necessarily be reading a very heavy tome on all serious subjects. So I think these might be kind of the perfect mix, which is what I'm hoping for. So this book features, it's written by Kat Sebastian, is the author's name. And it says it takes a charming, gratifyingly original perspective on love across the class divide. So the titular character, Kit, is a gruff retired highwayman turned coffeehouse proprietor who truly despises the aristocracy. And then Edward Percy Talbot, Lord Holland, is one of the British class system's greatest beneficiaries. So a dandy and Marquess, Percy is the heir to a prosperous dukedom held by one of England's most notorious abusers of aristocratic privilege and power. Sorry for my inability to get that word out. So this book, I think, speaks to somebody who likes a romance with a little history, a little, I don't know, they write romances, right, that are set in different time periods. And so this is one of those. A modern story, possibly, but set in a different time period. So if you're into British things and you're into sort of period romances, this would be right up your alley. It got great reviews. They said it's a delight and a surprise, and it is not only fans of Sebastian and queer historical romance, but also readers who are new to both. So if you haven't ventured into this vein of literature before, this might be the perfect book for you. Okay, so I've got a few others to talk about. Let's get going. Okay, so we're switching tone a little bit with this next book. As you saw there, it's called The Gunkle by Stephen Rowley. Now, I have discussed a Stephen Rowley book before. He wrote Lily and the Octopus, which was the book I loved so much about him and his character and his mini dachshund. I have a mini dachshund myself, so it was a very sweet, very heart-wrenching kind of story about his dog's illness. And the octopus in the title is a tumor on his dog, Lily. And the book is sweet and hilarious, and I loved it. So I'm really excited to see another one by him. And The Gunkle, which is, the putting together of two words there, the gay uncle. They said that this book is recommended if your favorite thing about summer is basking alone in your private pool, even if it's just an inflatable one, sipping kombucha and laughing loud enough to scare away the birds. So I love a laugh out loud book, and I think this is right up that alley. It says at the beginning of Stephen Rowley's third novel, The Gunkle, Patrick O'Hara's life is a little too quiet, but after the death of his sister-in-law, Patrick tries to bring color and light into his nieces' and nephews' lives, aiming to serve as an exuberant anti-mame. Never going too dark, The Gunkle is a sweet family story that offers an unexpected yet inevitable ending. So this sounds like all of the favorite things we love in a beach read, and again, lighter tone, serious topic, lighter tone, some levity, some humor, and some just vivaciousness that I am excited about. So this one is definitely on my list and has been. I can't wait to read it. So let's pick another one to talk about. So this next title is a little more serious, and it's nonfiction. So this is a biography, a memoir. It's called The Natural Mother of the Child by Chris Malcolm Belk. And it is a memoir of non-binary parenthood. So it says that when Chris Malcolm Belk sees pregnant women, he turns the other way. He doesn't want to hear pregnancy stories and finds it difficult to share his own. But in this book, the trans-masculine author doesn't turn away from his story. Instead, he lays it out page by page with pictures and legal documents juxtaposing his poetic prose. So it says that this is all about the process of becoming himself, the growing realization that he identified as male, the move toward a non-binary and eventually masculine presentation, the decision to start taking hormones, which happens alongside the rest of his story, which is he married his partner, she bore children, and he decided to carry a child as well only a few months after his wife gave birth. And so there's a lot here to unpack, and it's a story, I think, that is something we haven't seen a lot of in books, and I think that it's great that we are, because again, representation is important, and people being able to see themselves mirrored in books on library shelves and in programming and in just everyday life makes everybody feel more accepted and normal. We all want to feel like there are other people who are going through the things that we go through. That's part of the shared human experience. And so I think a book like this is really important because it is a story that hasn't often been told, you know, in public out loud very often in our past. And I'm hoping that this means that we're turning a corner where it will be, because everybody's story deserves to be told and everybody deserves to feel seen and recognized. So this book has gotten excellent reviews. It says it refuses easy stories and pat answers. It tells a counter story that resists narratives, traditional narratives, and pushes towards something messier and truer, which I think makes the best memoirs is when they're the ugly human truth, because we all get the whitewashed version of social media lives that everybody lives, right? But those are all their best days. And I feel like the memoirs that speak the most and that hit us the hardest are the ones that tell kind of the unvarnished truth, because we all know that life is messier than the Kodachrome pictures that we get online. And so I always find the most connection to those memoirs that are very unsearingly honest about how life can be messy and also wonderful at the same time. So The Natural Mother of the Child, if you are into memoirs, might be just the book for you. Okay, I've got one or two more. So this next book, Hola, Papi, How to Come Out in a Walmart Parking Lot and Other Life Lessons by John Paul Brammer, is one of two that I'm going to finish with that are nonfiction. They're under the heading in the book page of accompaniment for LGBTQ plus fellow travelers. There's a collection of advice to help pave a smoother way forward for those who are queer or questioning. So, you know, it says that queer culture has a rich history of elders mentoring younger folks and guiding them through a way of being that's still far too stigmatized. So we don't talk about it enough. And so the millennial author of this book is hardly an elder, but they didn't have these LGBTQ resources in their own youth and their own process of growing. And so they're looking to provide them for the current generations that are going through this. So this book, Hola, Papi, is ostensibly advice columns, basically, but it reads more like an essay collection, according to the reviews. So each submitted question becomes an entry point for Brammer to share a story from his young life as a queer writer and artist. And he grew up in rural Oklahoma, which is, you know, compared to an urban place, it's going to be a lot more taboo of a subject, and things are a little tougher for LGBTQ youth in those places. And so he's looking to make this way easier for those who are coming after. And I do love a good advice column book. I don't know if any of you have read Dear Sugar, but it was a collection of advice columns that got put into a book that do work like essays. It was written by Cheryl Strayed, who used to write advice columns. And I think there's just something great about it. It's episodic. episodic. It's small stories, so you don't have to read it all in one big chunk, which is great when you have pressed for time or it's a heavy subject and maybe you don't want to tackle it all at once. So I think advice columns are great. This one has a great cover. It looks like a lot of fun, but I also love the idea of trying to, like, when you climb a ladder yourself that's difficult, you don't want to pull it up after yourself, right? And make it just as difficult for others. We're looking to help other people make their way easier and maybe give them something that we didn't have when we needed it. So Hola, Papi by John Paul Brammer. I have one more book to cover and then we're done for the week. Okay, so this last book is called The Ex-Girlfriend of My Ex-Girlfriend is My Girlfriend, and it's advice on queer dating, love, and friendship. And I think advice books are another area where there are not enough LGBTQ books written. And again, for the younger generations coming up, I think it's a really important thing to be able to look on the shelf for some advice about relationships that haven't been represented in literature as much. So this one is written by Maddie Court. And she created it in grad school, and it's based on a zine that she created in grad school. So it's now in book form, and her advice is accompanied by lively dayglow art and comics by illustrator Kelsey Roten. So they primarily explore the experiences of women who are lesbian and bisexual, as well as those who have genders that have been historically marginalized. Again, we're talking about intersectionality here, so it's not all focused on white men. And so we've got this is written by women and more for women. But her advice gently nudges toward therapy or research about attachment theory could help anyone who needs a compassionate ear. So it's not solely for women, even though that may have been the target audience. It got great reviews. It says that Court makes it clear that finding queer community and consuming queer media are vitally important, which is why I'm doing this book talk, because of how crucial it is to see yourself represented, which is what I was discussing earlier. So this book is a nice bookend to this discussion that I'm bringing to you here about why it's important that we have representation in all of these areas and everybody can feel seen and respected. So I think that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I hope you check out some of these books. There are many others, and I will be adding a bunch to the collection. So if none of these speak to you, let me know, and I'll be happy to recommend some others. I hope you join us on the 12th to come make a flag for our fence. And we look forward to seeing you all. For those of you who may not know, the doors are unlocked. You don't need an appointment anymore. You are welcome to come into the library. We are still requiring masks because we serve so many little ones under the age of 12 who can't be vaccinated yet. And it's summer and they're starting to come in more and be out of school, and we want to protect everybody. So you'll have to wear a mask, but you're welcome to come in, use a computer, check out our new collection, borrow a book, borrow a movie. So we're really excited. We have a new newsletter coming out in July for everyone. So there will be lots of new stuff going on over the summer, including a summer reading program that is family themed. And that is however you define family, whether it's chosen family or biological or nuclear or not. We are excited for everybody to participate in a bunch of really fun activities. And of course, reading being one of those. So I look forward to seeing you all soon. I miss you all. And if there is anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to let us know. We'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.